All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become one in a million.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to another installment of our All of Us Online Cafe. My name is Kelsey Mahaffey, and I'm the All of Us Project Director for FiftyFoward, who is a national community engagement partner for the All of Us Research Program. And today I'm very excited to welcome my guest, Sara Del Castillo from Conexion Americas. And we're going to be talking about Hispanic Heritage Month, finding out why we celebrate it and why it's important to do so. So welcome, Sara.
Hola, hola, gracias. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. Before we jump into our conversation, I just want to remind our viewers out there what the All of Us Research Program is. You may have seen some of our other video series where we have talked with people about the All of Us Research Program, but in case you have not, this is a new initiative with the National Institutes of Health, and we are seeking to enroll 1 million people living in the United States from diverse backgrounds in order to get their health information, and this is to advance precision medicine. Really, this is just a fancy term for saying we really want the right treatments for the right person at the right time. Right now, our healthcare system is one size fits all, and we really want to change that by including all groups, all diverse peoples from around the country, making sure that they're included in cures for future research. So that is important, and you can find out more by visiting our website at joinallofus.org/50forward, and we'll repeat that website again at the end of our talk today. So once again, bienvenido, Sara.
Gracias. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. So first off, I would love it if you want to tell our viewers out there just a little bit about what Conexion Americas does in our community and what your role is there.
Absolutely. So Conexion Americas is located in Nashville, Tennessee, but we are a statewide organization. And our mission really is to build a welcoming community for Latino, Latinx immigrants, refugees, migrants who come to Tennessee to create a new life, to seek opportunity. And so we work across different areas of daily life, education, economics, policy, community development, advocacy. Got a lot going on, and the purpose is to make sure that we are building community, we are supporting community, we are building bridges of understanding and appreciation, and that we are making sure that the Latinx community in particular, though we do work with a lot of different cultural backgrounds and diverse identities, but the goal is to make sure that people have access to be able to belong, contribute, and succeed here in Tennessee, and honestly when they leave Tennessee, because we know that we establish really beautiful familia connections with people, and it's just such a joy to be a part of people's journeys, even if they're just in Tennessee for a little while.
Yeah. That's
And
awesome.
I forgot to mention what I do. So I just got so excited about the mission. So I am the Director of People and Culture. I work with our volunteer staff and interns. So I support the amazing people that get to go out into the community and work with our gente, with our program participants, with our students, our families, and also work across teams to make sure that we're staying connected, that we have the resources we need to sustain this work, to make sure that we continue to be energized and not burn out, right? Because we know that there are so many needs in the community, and making sure we take care of our people, the amazing, wonderful, welcoming faces that are in and throughout our community is very, very important.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Such a fabulous mission. I know at FiftyFoward, we love the work at Conexion Americas, and we've loved that we formed a partnership with you all, and being able to help cross-promote both of our missions. I just love that. So that's great. So if you could tell us a little bit about Hispanic Heritage Month, that would be wonderful. Tell us how it started, how it got created, and really what was the purpose? How did it end up?
Yeah, absolutely. And I talk with my hands, so I have to get a little more comfortable now that we're in here. Yes, so Hispanic Heritage Month actually is a pretty recent national holiday. It started in the 60s, which is really interesting because that's when, right, we were having the civil rights movement, we had the farm workers' right movement. There were a lot of conversations about human rights, about civil rights, and recognizing the amazing contributions made of, of non-white identifying Americans, of immigrants, of Black folks, right, of people across all different backgrounds. And so it started out as a week in the 60s, I believe it was 68. It was approved to be celebrated for a week. And then about 20 years later in the 80s, it became an entire month. And it's interesting because unlike some other months that we celebrate, Hispanic Heritage Month falls between two different months. It starts on September 15th and it ends on October 15th. And the reason why is because September 15th is actually the Independence Day of 5 different Latin American countries. I believe it's El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Costa Rica, which are all countries in Central America. So big day, the 15th, there's a lot going on in Central America, lots of festivals, lots of joy, lots of celebration and country pride. And then a few days later, Mexico and Chile also celebrate, I believe in Belize, also celebrate their heritage. And so throughout the month, right, there's a lot of activity going on in Latin America. And in a way, there's so many people here in the US who identify as Latinx or Hispanic, and then there's so many people in Latin America and different countries celebrate things. So it's kind of creating that cross celebration, even across borders.
Yeah, that's fabulous. So has this holiday kind of grown? Once it started in the 80s and became this month-long celebration, have we seen more growth, more celebrations occurring throughout the United States?
Yeah, I would say yes. And also the Latinx population has grown exponentially here in the US, right? I think in the 70s, about 5% of the population identified as Latinx or Hispanic. And now, 50 years later, which really isn't that much time, it's almost 1/5 of the US population identifies as Latinx or Hispanic. So yes, the month and the celebration has grown, with allies and non-Latinx identifying people, but we've grown, the population has grown, and we know that it's one of the fastest growing populations in the US currently. And our contributions as well, right? The awareness of all the different sectors that we work in, all the contributions we have in the arts and philosophy and law and, farm work, so many different areas. It's not just, the understanding of what it means to be Latinx. It's always been diverse, but I think awareness of that is expanding.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And you just answered my next question of why do you feel it's important to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month? And you just so eloquently said it right there. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, I have heard the term Latinx more frequently used. And we also have the term Latino and Hispanic. And I would love it if you could explain for our viewers the difference between those terms and which is appropriate for use.
Yes, and thank you for asking that question and creating space for that conversation because it is important. So Hispanic refers to a shared language, and it actually traces its origins back to Spain. So Hispanic literally means almost like to be connected to Spain and how do you call it? Not ancestor, but descendant. Almost of origins, descendant. Thank you. And typically refers to people who speak Spanish. So, and I will say, disclaimer, I think what's important in naming protocols, one, it's understanding what the word comes from, but what's really important is to understand how people want to be identified, right? Some people who speak Spanish or from a Latin American country, they use the term Hispanic, right? Hispano, Hispanic. I hear it used often in my community. There are people who do not like that term. I am one of them because I don't feel connected to Spain in any way, right? And I think there is obviously a terrible colonization, a lot of pain that my ancestors experienced at the hands of colonization, so in colonialism. So I don't identify as Hispanic. I don't pass judgment on anyone in my community who identifies as such.
Mhm.
And I also understand that, to be quite honest, all of us aren't sitting here around talking about Latinx, Hispanic on a daily basis. Some are, some aren't. I just think there is a lot of different journeys. Latinx is a newer term. It used to be Latino, Latina. Those words still exist. That refers to a geography. So Latin America means that you or your family members are from a Latin American country. In that sense, Brazil would be included, right? Brazilians are not Hispanic because they don't speak Spanish typically, they speak Portuguese, but they would be Latinx or Latino, Latina because they're a Latin American country. So, but what I would say that I think is important is like letting people open up to you, asking questions if people feel comfortable answering them. If you know, how do you like to be identified? And some people may tell you, I identify as Peruvian American, I identify as Mexican or Chicano. And I think it's just recognizing the diversity, the immense diversity that lies behind those terms. They are try to be all encapsulating, and it's impossible to do that. So no matter what, they're going to fall short a little bit. But I think if we do our best and we create that safe space for people to tell us how they want to be identified, then, you know, that's a great place to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That clears up a lot of misconceptions for me, and I think for our viewers too, on what terms we should be using. So I love that, and I love you. We just asked, like we all just want that, right? Just simply ask
Mm-hmm.
how you would like to be identified. That everybody deserves that respect. So that's great.
Absolutely. Right.
Okay. And I'd love to ask you too. I know that you are aware of the All of Us research program, as I have told you about it, and the staff at Conexion Americas. And you know that we are seeking to include groups from historically underrepresented communities in biomedical research. And of course, one of those communities is the Latinx community. And do you feel that it's important to include this community in research for future cures? And I'd love to hear your opinion on that and why or why not.
Absolutely. So I think it's extremely important to include diverse populations when we talk about cures, when we talk about medical practices and health and well-being. Our community, and also I want to talk about the Latinx community, again, thinking about the diversity. Latinx is not a race. It is a very diverse cultural identity. And we know that different medical practices might affect our population differently. And one population I really want to talk about is the Black population. So there's a huge Afro-Latinx, Black, people identify differently, but that's a huge portion of our population in Latin America, right? Brazil, I think, has one of the highest Black populations in the world. There are Afro-Latinx populations all throughout Latin America. And so that's also a huge population, right? And we know that depending on where our ancestors come from in the world, indigenous backgrounds, African backgrounds, right, that they may react differently to different medical practices. And so I think it's extremely important to understand our needs, our healthcare needs, and also to understand the struggles that we may have, what patterns arise. And in that research, I really hope and believe that FiftyFoward in this campaign will also learn about the immense diversity of the Latinx population, right? That it's not a one-size-fits-all, even in its own identity as Latinx. And so I'm really glad that efforts are being made to include that population and educate medical practitioners on those specific needs.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because it really is one thing that makes the All of Us research program unique is that it views our participants as partners. Really, this is a shared partnership. This is not researchers studying individuals. It really is a partnership. And whatever we learn, we want to be able to share that back with the participants, and hopefully we both learn from each other. So I love that you mentioned that. That's great, and thank you. Let's switch gears and talk a little bit about how Conexion Americas is celebrating Hispanic
Yes,
Heritage Month. Yeah, so
we are so
tell us.
excited. Fiesta, fiesta.
Yeah.
So yeah, certainly a time to celebrate. So um, typically, in a normal non-pandemic year, we would have our Latin party. There would be dancing and music and food. So much fun. And we are going to replicate that. The challenge accepted, COVID-19. We are doing a virtual event. It's called Conexion Americas en casa, which means Conexion Americas in your home. And so, I think across many Latin cultures, family is so important, and being able to share and celebrate our shared heritage is important, and share it with others, right? And so we are doing a virtual event on October 16th at 7 p.m. People can RSVP at conexionamericas.org. And it's going to be the same thing, virtual, but it's going to be music. It's going to be a celebration of culture. There will be some performances. And there will also be a wonderful celebration of people in our community who've been a vital and important part of the work of creating equitable and resource-driven movements for Latinos here in Nashville and in Tennessee. So we're really excited. We hope to see you there. It's going to be fun, and it'll be a great opportunity to learn more about our community and the work that we do.
Well, that sounds fabulous. I would love to attend myself, so I will RSVP at that link, and we will make sure we put that link in the chat so that people can go and check out that event, because it sounds fabulous. What a great thing. We need some celebration right now, don't we?
Yes, and we just have an amazing musical artist lined up, so it'll be really fun and very special.
Awesome. We'll be looking forward to that.
Yes.
Yeah. And is there anywhere that you recommend for people to go that are interested in other events that are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month?
Yeah, so I'll be really honest. I nothing like immediately came to mind besides come to our event and follow us on Facebook and social media for more info. But the Nashville Area Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, I believe, released a calendar of events recently. And people can also, what I think is so cool about the virtual world that we're in right now, despite the challenges it has presented, is that we have access to a lot of spaces despite them being far away. And so I would recommend people Google and just say Hispanic Heritage Month virtual events as well, and see, right, maybe there's something cool going on in Washington, D.C. or Los Angeles, New York, where we have huge populations of Latinx identifying people. So I feel like that's also got to be a really cool place to take advantage of this virtual reality we're currently living in.
Yeah, and that's so true. That's such a great point. For those of us that are connected virtually and do have access to internet and computers and smartphones, the sky's the limit right now.
Mm-hmm.
You can, attend events all over the country, all over the world. So it really is, it's a positive that's come out of this situation that we've all find ourselves in with the pandemic. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think it'd be cool too for people to get creative and find ways to support Latinx identifying businesses, right? Are there restaurants you've never ordered from in your own community? Are there places or businesses that you've been wanting to explore, and even virtually, right? Are there not just food, but are there other businesses, services that are Latinx owned that you can invest in or find out more about? So I also think that's a great thing to think about as we're in this month and being intentional about focusing on Latinx cultures.
Yeah. That's an easy one for me, as that's my favorite cuisine. So
oh, great!
I'm always searching for the best foods from that culture.
Awesome.
So,
And Nashville's got some really good ones, so especially on Nolensville Pike. You can just drive right down Nolensville Pike, and honestly, if you drive all the way down and head towards Antioch, there's bound to be, I mean, hundreds of businesses you can choose from, and just get adventurous and pop into one or order takeout and
Yeah,
try
we
something
do.
new.
That's one of our favorite date nights. My husband and I will just go down Nolensville and see what
I love
speaks
it.
to us and
That is
try
so
out new
fun.
places. Yeah.
Awesome. That's a great idea.
Yeah, great. Okay. And so is there anything else that we missed possibly that you wanted to mention or share about Hispanic Heritage Month that we haven't covered today?
Yeah, I would just say, I think just circling back, I think the most important part for me of this month is one, recognizing the immense contributions, sacrifices made every day by Latinx identifying people to make sure that this country is a safe and thriving place, sometimes at our own cost. And so I think also thinking through, how do we stand up for, be allies for, not just celebrate, right, like the food and the dance, which are wonderful and beautiful parts of our cultures, but also how do I support, how do I learn about, how do I be an ally for Latinx identifying people? We're in an election year. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. So educating ourselves, not just with the fun, colorful, but also the history and the rich contributions that people are making. And lastly, the immense diversity. I think I've said it a few times, but just remembering I do not represent Latinx. No one person represents Latinx identity, right? We come with different hair textures, different skin colors. Our ancestors come from different places. And while Latinx is a unifying term in some ways, making sure it doesn't leave out other people in other ways. Not everyone looks like J-Lo, and there's some really beautiful history there learned about as well. So encourage people to be curious.
Yeah, that's fabulous. And I love that word, curious. Stay curious about everything, and you never know
Yeah,
what life will bring you. So that's great.
absolutely.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap up our conversation today. This has been enlightening for me. I have found it inspiring. I hope all of you out there have found this inspiring as well, and that you've learned a little bit about Hispanic Heritage Month and why we should celebrate it. I encourage you to find out more, and please visit the event that Conexion Americas is having. Again, we'll put that in the chat. And if you would like more information on the All of Us research program and how it seeks to include diversity in medical research, again, you can find out information at our website, which is joinallofus.org/50forward, and we'll put that in the chat as well. And we just want to thank you again, Sara, for joining us today. Muchas gracias. It's been a fabulous conversation, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Everyone out there, tune in to our next cafe, which will be happening on October 26th at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, where we will be talking about medical mistrust. Hope to see you there. Thank you again, Sara.
Yes.
Adios.